changes in our surroundings, especially the environmental changes we occupy. Sometimes we think and ask why are these changes happen around us, and what are the causes behind them? Are they natural phenomena that are out of control, or phenomena that are caused by us living creatures?
This podcast will be discussing about climate change, what it is, its causes and effects, and how we are going to find solution for it to mitigate its influence. Hi, I am Sandara.
I am Kyla. And I am Jennifer.
Welcome to Edu Diaries,
where we will have an informative talk about climate change.
Before we jump to our main subject, let us first define the word climate. Climate refers to a long-term, usually at least 30 years, regional or even global average of temperature, humidity, and rainfall patterns over a seasons, years, or decades. It is the condition of the atmosphere at a particular location over a long period of time.
Climate change is a long-lasting change in the weather arrays across tropics to poles. It is a global threat that has embarked on to put stress on various sectors. Climate change is an intergovernmental complex change globally with its influence over various components of ecological, environmental, social-political, and socio-economic disciplines. The change in climate offers a variety of effects, and thus, its causes are the ones that we should be studying in order for this occurrence to mitigate.
Some amount of climate change can be attributed to natural phenomena. Over the course of Earth's existence, volcanic eruption, fluctuation in solar radiation, tectonic shifts, and even small changes in our orbit have all had observable effects on planetary warming and cooling patterns.
Scientists also agree that human activity is the primary driver of what we see in our life. This type of climate change is sometimes referred to as anthropogenic, which is just a way of saying caused by human beings. The unchecked burning of fossil fuels over the past 150 years has drastically increased by the presence of atmospheric greenhouse gases, most notably carbon dioxide. Our ways of generating power for electricity, heat, and transportation, our built environment and industries, our ways of interacting with the land, and our consumption habits together serve as the primary sources or drivers of climate change.
It is important to note that while climate change affects everyone in some way, it doesn't do so equally. All over the world, those living in economical disadvantage or politically marginalized communities bear a much larger burden, despite the fact that these communities play a much smaller role in warming the planet.
Detailing and discussing the human causes of climate change isn't about shaming people or trying to make them feel guilty for their choices. It's about defining the problem so that we can arrive at effective solutions. And we must honestly address its origins, even though it can sometimes be difficult or even uncomfortable to do so. Therefore, it is necessary for us to be mindful at all costs, lower our carbon footprint, and be knowledgeable about the process of climate change so that we can mitigate possible consequences in life. But what exactly are the effects of these natural and human-driven causes? Climate change is our planet's greatest existential threat. If we don't limit greenhouse gas emissions from the burning of fossil fuels, the consequences of rising global temperatures, including massive crop and fishery collapse, the disappearance of hundreds of thousands of species, and entire communities becoming uninhabitable might actually happen.
Climate change affects the weather, environment, livelihood, and living organisms directly. As global temperatures climb, widespread shifts in weather system occur, making events like having higher average temperature, longer lasting droughts, more intense wildfires, and stronger storms.
From the poles to the tropics, climate change is disrupting ecosystems. Even a seemingly slight shift in temperature can cause dramatic changes that ripple through food webs and the environment. Climate change is also threatening species like animals and humans. Animals are already suffering from the biodiversity crisis, which is driven primarily by changes in land and ocean use, like converting wild places to farmland, and direct exploitation of species like overfishing and wildlife trade. Climate change significantly impacts animals through habitat loss and alteration. Rising temperatures and extreme weather events, such as droughts and floods, disrupt ecosystems, forcing animals to migrate or adapt, often unsuccessfully. Climate change significantly impacts animals through habitat loss and alteration. Rising temperatures and extreme weather events, such as droughts and floods, disrupt ecosystem,
forcing animals to migrate or adapt, often unsuccessfully. Ocean acidification and warming waters harm marine life, impacting coral reefs and fish populations. These combined effects threaten biodiversity and the delicate balance of natural ecosystems, leading to species extinction and ecosystem collapse. Ultimately, the way climate change impacts weather, the environment, animals, and agriculture affects humanity as well. At worst, these effects on humans could lead to widespread famine, disease, war, displacement, injury, and even death. For many around the world, this grim forecast is already their reality. In this way, climate change poses an existential threat to all human life.
Everyone can help limit climate change, from the way we travel to the electricity we use and the food we eat. We can make a difference.
One of the most important things that we can do to combat climate change is drastically reduce our consumption of fossil fuels. The burning of coal, oil, and natural gas in our buildings, industrial processes, and transportation is responsible for the vast majority of emissions that are warming the planet, more than 75%, according to the United Nations. We must replace coal, oil, and gas with renewable and efficient energy sources that offer more benefits and less harm to people.
We must be responsible for our energy consumptions as this has hazardous impacts on our environment, even if it also has its own benefits. We must then choose renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, hydroelectric, and geothermal that offer a promising path toward a carbon neutral future. These sources are naturally replenished, emitting minimal greenhouse gases, and are increasingly cost competitive with fossil fuels.
And also, we have to protect and restore our ecosystem, bring it back to life, and give it colors. We must promote reforestation, protect existing forests, and restore degraded ecosystems that are crucial for carbon sequestration and biodiversity conservation. Reforestation can help absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, mitigating climate change.
We must also practice reducing food waste, as food waste is a significant contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. Minimizing food waste and the consumer level through mindful shopping, meal planning, and proper storage can make a significant impact. Composting organic waste can reduce methane emissions from landfills and create valuable soil amendments.
It is undeniable that climate change has devastating impacts not just on us humans, but also on plants, animals, and our environment. There are plenty of solutions we have today, and we can still have more if we will think and focus about mitigating the effects of climate change. As humans, the simplest thing we could do is to be responsible for our actions and consider the consequences of the actions we will take in order for us to avoid having confusion in the end.
Climate change is a complex and interconnected issue requiring a multi-faceted approach involving individuals, governments, businesses, and communities. As we conclude the podcast series on climate change, we want to leave you with a sense of hope and empowerment.
The journey to combating climate change can seem challenging, but we believe that collective action can lead to significant positive change. We've explored the science behind climate change, its impact on our planet, and the ways in which individuals, communities, and governments can work together to mitigate its effect.
Now, it is your turn to take actions. Every small step counts, from reducing your carbon footprints to supporting climate-friendly policies. Your voice matters, and your choices can influence those around you.
Remember, climate change is a global problem that requires a global response, but it is also a local issue that demands local action. By working together, we can create a more sustainable, equitable, and just world for all.
So, let's rise to the challenge. Let's utilize our collective creativity, ingenuity, and determination to create a better future. Thank you for joining us on this climate change podcast. Together, let's make a difference in combating the impacts of climate change, creating a healthy and better environment for all.